Good evening, everyone. Welcome to America's Third Party's Open Topic Show, where we talk about things openly and we interact with people on a nightly basis. And one of the things I'm dealing with right now is depression. Not my own depression, but the depression of everyone around me. I consider this a political group therapy session, if you will, where we can work out our problems if we object to this war, because over 75% of the American people do not want a war with Syria. But today, the announcement that the Senate wants to put us into war, the Senate committee has agreed to it, and now we're seeing it migrate through Congress to get final approval. The last thing I wanted to hear from Barack Obama's mouth was that we should have a war with Syria. That is not what I want to hear. I want to hear something a lot more intelligent, like we've got economic problems that are fomenting all over the place. Not enough jobs, houses that are foreclosing on people. I want to hear about new ideas to create industry and progress and production in America. And I'm not hearing that. I'm just hearing about a war that we have to have with Syria. So let's go deeper into this little subset of information. Thank you, guys. Hey, Candy. Welcome to the show. Candy over at Battle Cam. Candy Rain. I heard about Ariel Castro hanging himself. Do many of you people believe that he did it intentionally, or do you think he was suicided? You think somebody got rid of him with a sheet? Some people might think that they just hated on him and they got rid of him. MCR is saying maybe. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. All I know is that it's $60,000 less per year to warehouse him in high security in a prison. Maybe even more. I mean, a guy like him could cost up to $100,000 a year. Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, with all the extra security.
Oh, yeah, I'm not.
Like to tune that up now, Dave.
Okay, you're going to tune it up. So you're going to try to get Richard Simmons to come on our show, Carl?
Yeah, I've been kind of casually mentioning the show, but not pushing it, because I don't want to seem like I'm pressuring him to check out your show.
Okay, well, thank you, but you know Richard Simmons online. That's one angle. Candy's going, ew. And I'm going, well, you know, we're trying to help you through the kind of therapy you need to deal with this. Humor is one of those things we use. I'm not really laughing at the war with Syria. I thought bringing up Richard Simmons' tutu was far more funny and lighter than talking about global nuclear annihilation.
And tutu is on screen.
I've left the show for a while. I'll be back in just a second as soon as I bring up my camera. Yeah, anyway, we're trying to give you guys a live quality show here, and I can't do it and record it and make it look really interesting every night without actually preparing in advance for interruptions from chat. So you guys are all good at interrupting me, and I appreciate that, because that's what this is all about. We want to kill the pain of realizing that Obama wants to start a war with Syria. Most of us are coming to this independent party right now with a simple goal, and that is to awaken the American people and become more aware of themselves. And they have come from the Republican side. The people that didn't like George W. Bush have come into our room and started realizing, yeah, we don't want war either. We don't want an overtaking budget that destroys America's own providence as a country. We're losing our national security simply because they're charging so much money for war. You know that the war in Afghanistan and Iraq has combined costs of $1.6 trillion. I threw that billion out there. It's $1.6 trillion. That's how much the war in Iraq and Afghanistan has cost us. And that's still, increasing with Afghanistan still going. So Barack Obama wants to... Go ahead.
The only good thing about war is it wastes money.
It does. It wastes money, and that's the point. It's not going to help trigger an economic solution. It hasn't over the past 4 failed attempts at war. Why would they think going to war with Syria is going to help our economy? Well, it helps the people who sell ordnance and munitions and cruise missiles and tomahawks and UAVs. That these people make a lot of money on these UAVs. They're $10 million a piece. So if those get lost over the sea, that we have a problem. We are trying to come up with an answer as to why Barack Obama has ignored information that's out there, U.S. military information, that has been propagated on the internet. And I went for a search on Google to find out about what was going on behind the gas attack in Damascus, and was the U.S. involved? And I couldn't find a single thing, going back pages and pages on a Google search. I did that earlier. I couldn't find a single thing about it until I ran into a couple of websites that people gave links to in the room. That's how I got this information. So I'm going to give you guys a quick look-see at what we're talking about. According to this particular article in globalresearch.ca, U.S. military intelligence is involved in the chemical attack in Syria. Now that's very telling information, considering I couldn't even find it on the internet doing a word search for just this. So here it is, right before you. Let me give you a brief synopsis. The situation in Syria is still in focus in the world media. Yep. Meanwhile, the new evidence of the U.S. intelligence being involved in chemical attack near Damascus has been leaked to the internet. Okay? A hacker got access to the U.S. intelligence correspondence and published private emails of Colonel Anthony McDonald, who is the General Staff Director, Operations and Planning Office of the Deputy Chief of Staff for the Intelligence of the U.S. Army Staff. Okay, Chief of Staff for Intelligence at the U.S. Army. In an email exchange on August 22nd with another person, they apparently they uncovered some pretty powerful stuff. And I'm not going to give you the specific information right here, because I believe that probably is going to, be very serious and very involved. And I really not show you that. Let me show you an enlargement of it. Okay, they said, I can't stop thinking about that terrible gas attack in Syria now. Did you see those kids? I was really crying. They were poisoned. They died. When is it over? I see their faces when in sleep. What did Tony say you about this? McDonald returned, I saw it too, and I got afraid very much, but Tony comforted me. He said the kids weren't hurt. It was done for cameras. So you don't worry, my dear. And then Shapiro writes back, I'm still thinking about those Syrian kids. Thanks God they are alive. I hope they got a kind of present or some cash. Now this letter is implying that this was all made up, that the thing was staged to make it look like a media event had occurred. Now apparently, according to the same source, on August 24th, Syrian commando forces acted on intelligence about the possible perpetrators of the chemical attack and raided a cluster of rebel tunnels in the Damascus suburb of Jobar. And canisters of toxic material were hit in the fierce firefight as several Syrian soldiers suffered from suffocation, and some of the injured are in a critical condition. Well, yeah, this implies that major amounts of this stuff was used. If this data is true of some correspondence, then it's very possible that it could be telling of a false flag operation. Here's another one. This coming from the Natural News. Very interesting. Now, I must remind you, it took a lot just to get this information out there. Let me take a better picture of that. Bear with me here. We are constantly trying to bring in stories that are contrary to the mainstream media, because I think that we are being fed constant barrage of propaganda about the Syrian situation and the need for war with Bashar al-Assad and his government. Okay, bombshell.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You agree with you. Bombshell. Syria's chemical weapons turn out to be sodium fluoride used in the U.S. water supply and sold at Walmart. Now, Natural News is known for some pretty outrageous opinions, but this is perhaps the most outrageous, I feel. Here it is.
It's almost as outrageous as my picture right now.
Yeah. That's a very interesting picture. You want to put Barack Obama on trial for war crimes. Wow. Let me take a look at that picture.
Maybe he's already been arrested and you don't know it.
That could have been a pay stub, but yeah, Carl's trying to stipulate that Barack Obama has committed war crimes in the past.
War crimes, constitutional violations, illegally surpassing the Congress and the Senate, basically abuse of power in every which way you can ever cite. And we've seen it. There's evidence.
There is.
Now it's just a matter of the cowards getting off their lazy butts and doing something.
There you go. Good point, Carl. Well, you can go back on camera and take Barack Obama off. I'm going to leave you that spot to put your face on. Natural News can now reveal the Syrian chemical weapons narrative being pushed by the White House is an outlandish hoax. To understand why, you have to start with a story published in The Independent entitled Revealed, Government Let British Company Export Nerve Gas Chemicals to Syria. Sounds scary, right? Well, as The Independent reports, the government was accused of breathtaking laxity in its arms controls last night after it emerged that officials authorized the export to Syria of 2 chemicals capable of being used to make a nerve agent, such as sarin, and this happened a year ago. What exactly are those 2 dangerous chemicals that need to be controlled via arms control regulations? Sodium fluoride and potassium fluoride. Well, it's a pretty long article.
David, for all we know, someone could have, instead of using sarin gas, someone could have just mixed a whole bunch of bleach and ammonia, for all we know.
Yeah, we don't know anything. Nice picture, Carl. I like that. Evidence of chemical weapons, nothing more than hair samples of people who drank sodium fluoride. As you might have guessed, Secretary of State John Kerry is running around pulling a George W. Bush by claiming Syria has used weapons of mass destruction on its own people. Here's a sample of his claims. In the last 24 hours, we've learned through samples that were provided to the U.S. that have now been tested from first responders in East Damascus, and hair samples and blood samples have tested positive for signatures of sarin, Kerry said in an NBC Meet the Press. But what exactly is he saying, the article goes on to say? The hair samples have tested positive for signatures of sarin, not sarin itself. What is the signature of sarin? The fluorine element, which is of course the basis for sodium fluoride. Whoa. In other words, the evidence of chemical weapons in Syria may be nothing more than a collection of hair samples taken from people who drank fluoride. Well, you know, I would love to get deeper into this article, and I'm sure all of you will go to naturalnews.com and research it. But my concern is that we are being pushed into this. It's almost a rush to judgment by U.S. intelligence and John Kerry. And it seems as though this rush to judgment is ultimately going to cost us, because who ends up paying the price? Nearly 6,000 men and some women have died in Afghanistan and Iraq combined. So clearly the people who are looking for a job in the military.
Every time one dies, I have to go put the flag up at half staff. Every single time.
Well, that's
so
really
I know
good.
I'm keeping count too.
That's really good. I'm going to bring out John Kerry now and let you show. I'm going to show you how completely bumbling and off base he is when he's talking about the subject of sending in ground troops into Syria. Listen to this.
A prohibition for having American boots on the ground, is that something that the administration would accept as part of a resolution?
Mr. Chairman, it would be preferable not because there's any intention or any plan or any desire whatsoever to have boots on the ground. I think the President will give you every assurance in the world, as am I, as the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman. But in the event Syria imploded, for instance, or in the event there was a threat of a chemical weapons cache falling into the hands of al-Nusra or someone else, and it was clearly in the interests of our allies and all of us, the British, the French, and others, to prevent those weapons of mass destruction falling into the hands of the worst elements. I don't want to take off the table an option that might or might not be available to the President of the United States to secure our country.
If we said that there'd be no troops on the ground for combat purposes, that clearly would assume...
Well, assuming that in the going to protect those weapons, whether or not they have to, answer a shot in order to be secure, I don't want to speak that. But the bottom line is this. Can I give you the bottom line?
We're going to have to work.
I'm absolutely confident, Mr. Chairman, that it is easy, not that complicated, to work out language that will satisfy the Congress and the American people that there's no door open here through which someone can...
I'm going to stop this. It's more like blee, blee, blee. That's all, folks. It's kind of like a bumbling, berserk idiot who has no idea with points and counterpoints how to come up with an assessment. This guy has not looked at alternative evidence like you just looked at in this video. He didn't check naturalnews.com, obviously, and didn't really vet the story too deeply. I'm sure he's listening to his CIA experts tell him that we have absolute evidence, telling evidence. Well, what is that evidence, clearly? If it is just some sodium fluoride in their water system or in their hair samples, I mean, seriously, let's get a third-party assessment of that evidence. I don't believe we should move at all in a quick manner here. I believe we need to be very careful, and we need to make sure that we've vetted every bit of information in order to make a decision as most serious as starting a war in Syria. But anyway, Carl, I do appreciate you coming into our show, and it's always fun to tell people that you can join our show at any time in the show by simply going to americasthirdparty.com and clicking our video chat button, which is the first thing under the name. So go to video chat. You can become one of the people to be participating in our nightly show. We do recordings of these shows nightly, as you know, and we want to make sure that we can at least talk about some of the things that aren't being discussed in the mainstream media. And I want you to have a normal, casual relationship with a guy who wants to be president. And I'm giving you this every single day because I'm putting the time in to chat with you and to talk to you about how I would approach these issues. And I can tell you, I do not want war. Last thing I want communication, I want humanitarian support, and I solemnly promise all of you that I will not increase the troop strength in the Middle East. We will subtract from it. And boots on the ground in Syria, an answer to that would be, under most circumstances, no. But if Syria were to attack us directly, that would be the one pretense for war. They have not attacked us directly. We would be the aggressors. We would be attacking them directly. That's a completely different story. And we do not have UN approval right now. Vladimir Putin has said that Russia would consider supporting a UN involvement here. So we really need to wait and see and get a summit meeting together with Obama and Vladimir Putin before we make any rash decisions here. So I'm calling for all of us to keep a level head, do a little political therapy to get through this tough time right now, but talk to everybody you can.
Contact the representative, David, to tell them that they need to contact the representative.
Yep, and contact your representatives.
They are opposed to it.
Right.
Because they said if enough Americans contact them, they will vote it down.
Good. Good. And this is exactly what I recommend everybody does. We did it last night. We contacted our U.S. Senator, Patty Murray, and wrote her saying emphatically that we definitely do not want war in Syria. And we also believe that Barack Obama should be tried for war crimes because we believe his war action in Libya was illegal. Even under the loosest interpretation of the 1973 War Powers Agreement that he is invoking, under the loosest interpretation, Libya was a violation of that. You're only allowed to do it for 48 hours, not 6 weeks. And he definitely violated that without congressional approval, attacking Libya. And our previous video, we talked about the connection between Benghazi and the Syrian rebels. And I think you need to watch that if you haven't seen it already. Go back one video, folks, if you're watching this in archive. We do the 6 to 9 show every single night except Sunday. It's now open to Saturday, and we are going to be doing our anti-war rally come this Saturday, 6 to 9 Pacific time. Thanks for watching, everybody. What's that?
And I said, I'll make sure I have peace signs up for you.
Okay, great. We'll be having peace signs in the background, courtesy of Carl. Thank you very much, Carl. Appreciate it. Okay.
No problem. I'll see you later.
Okay, take care. Good night, Carl. Bye-bye. And goodbye, everybody. We'll talk to you again in the next show.